For the people watching this, they might not know this, but you're originally from the Caribbean, correct?
I am from the Caribbean. I'm from the island of Jamaica. And then we have a La Nina pattern, which is the pattern that we're seeing now. And a La Nina pattern is essentially overly cold equatorial Pacific waters. And this is an incredibly important signal for tropical cyclone activity, because essentially what it does is it modulates the winds over the entire tropical band, right? So this signal is large enough that it actually impacts the entire tropical band going around the globe. And for the North Atlantic, what this signal means is that we should expect more tropical cyclone activity to pass through. So we know that there are definitely seasonal shifts in the genesis location, where tropical cyclones actually start, right? Genesis locations across the North Atlantic. So in the earlier season, like perhaps around April, May, June, you'll have a lot of the storms forming nearer to the Gulf of Mexico, because the Gulf of Mexico tends to warm up faster than the rest of the basin. And as
Could
the
you
North
speak to why that is, real briefly?
Yeah, I think it's essentially just that the Gulf of Mexico tends to be the shallowest part of the basin, right? So it just
Mhm.
heats up pretty naturally.
Yeah.
And then as the entire basin starts to warm up, those genesis locations just sort of shifts further east to the eastern Atlantic, and then near to the later part of the season, which is like October, November, and December, it moves back to the western part, the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean. So we know that, right? We know that there are those seasonal shifts. And we're warming up, right?
Mhm.
We did a complete 180 between March and April, right? So March, we were actually particularly cold in the Eastern Atlantic. And then in April, boom, now we're actually pretty warm. So yeah, that doesn't bode well at all. It seems that there is a lot of fa- the odds are stacked against
Right.
us at the
Right.
moment. Yeah, and it. I should also point out that when we say above average, the average is actually already pretty active,
Yeah.
right? So above average is actually, uh,
And
yeah,
and
not good.
and we've had to recalibrate the average over the last 30 years because it has
Correct.
been a
Yes.
more active time.
But also bear in mind that we can see these storms outside of that particular season as well, which is what climatology is,
Mhm.
right? This is what we've seen in the past. It can happen. There is some likelihood.
Right.
It's not entirely zero. Where what happens is that even though we lose the wind impact of the storm, you still end up having the rain impact. And this rain impact, the rain bands or the former rain bands of the storm get reinvigorated because of their interaction with the land. So they can re-intensify and power up, quote unquote, and move further north. They get advected further
Mhm.
north. So when we say that that intensity of storms is likely to increase with global warming, then it means that that the majority of scientists actually agree. So yes, there is high confidence that the intensity of storms will increase.
Mhm.
One, tropical cyclones are compounding impacts, right? They bring compounding hazards pretty much. Two, these hazards are not necessarily dependent on intensity. So when you talk about impacts, you can have them with literally any tropical storm. And three, you've already pointed this out, is that it really only takes one storm for it to be a really active season for you, right? And four, with climate change, you have a greater risk of there being compounding impacts from many storms, right? This is what makes an above average hurricane season incredibly dangerous, particularly for hurricane prone areas, Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, the East Coast of the US. Because you're at higher latitudes does not mean that you're safe.
Right.
You have remnants, powerful enough storm that makes it through extratropical transition, which means that it moves from tropical to extratropical waters, can also be devastating. Flash floods are very dangerous. Storm surge is very dangerous. Flooding is very dangerous. And wind is, I mean, it impacts some houses, you know, but at the end of the day, it's really the water that is the scariest part of it.